show where we talk about the biggest football games of the weekend. And this week is a little bit on the dry side. I'm not gonna lie. Not too many like amazing matchups, but still a pretty solid week, I think, of college football. Um, got a lot to talk about, so we're just gonna jump right into um, the games. Well, actually, before we jump right into the games, Bobby, how's your week been? How are you?
It's not been too bad overall. Got a bunch of Tennessee fans in my mentions. Just ruthless. So got a nice introduction to Vol Twitter here a couple weeks before the Sooners play them. So outside of the relentless assault on my mentions, it's not too bad.
All right. Well, maybe we got to hit up Sean Coleman and see if we can get him on the show to maybe help, like, like calm them down and maybe he can maybe he's got some pull in Long Nation to help.
Shoot, maybe so. We I need an advocate at this point. It's looking rough out here, man.
Oh man. Well, awesome. Well, glad to be talking college football with you for another week. Let's start off with Alabama at Wisconsin. The Crimson Tide's favored by 16 points. Now, I had to double check this because I remember last Saturday I went to a festival. I wasn't really watching any of the games, but I do remember seeing that Alabama was in a dogfight with USF last week. And if you look at the score, it's kind of deceiving. They won 42-16, but if you go to the box score, they in the fourth quarter, it was like a close game up until I guess Alabama just figured out how to play football again and scored 28 points in the fourth, and that's what made the score be 42-16. So once again, similar to last year, they had a hard time against USF. The difference between last year and this year was this game was at Bryant Denny. Still kind of like alarming a little bit, I think, if you're Alabama team, especially that's been given the ranking of number 4. Well, let's talk about that for a second, Bobby. Before we kind of dig into this game, is Alabama overrated?
I'm not ready to say that just yet. I mean, every team in college football, it's been really kind of taking their lumps early, and they're certainly one of them. I think they have a bit of a depth issue. They've had some injuries on the offensive line. They ended up actually subbing a guy in that really kind of changed the complexion of that game entirely. But I mean, I don't know if I'd quite call them overrated. I think they're kind of properly rated right now. I don't think they're the cream of the crop in the SEC, not this year. But I think they're still, kind of a solid team. I think this week will determine a lot and will show a lot of what this Crimson Tide team does have, though. Wisconsin, not the team they've used to be in the past, but overall, any trip to Camp Randall is a bit tricky. So I'm intrigued to see what happens there.
Yeah, I'm intrigued too. I think they are a little overrated. I was like, I get this was a team that was a CFP team last year, but I think and Kevin DeBoer is a really good coach. I think we're so used to Alabama getting that AP and college football playoff ranking stimulus package from Nick Saban and from them just being able to find ways to win, even though the last few years they sort of weren't as dominant. Like I feel like the Mac Jones year was last year where they were really dominant, and then every year since then it was sort of like some of these games they were winning by the skin of their teeth. And this was like another example against USF, although again the score doesn't indicate that. But I feel like it'll be interesting to see when we get into their SEC schedule. But for right now, I'm not really convinced that they're a top 4 team in the country. And also, Bobby, what it might just be is I think Georgia, Texas, and Ohio State might just be a tier above the rest. So if you want to look at it as like, okay, those are the best 3 teams in the country, and then everyone else is just sort of in the same group, I'm willing to have that conversation. But to me, Alabama's going to have to show me a little bit more to show me that they belong up there. I think Tennessee has looked better through the last couple of weeks, honestly, than Alabama.
I agree.
So, I mean, there's definitely some teams you could swap with them if we're gonna have that conversation. But yeah, I mean, Alabama's just sort of getting their props for being who they are. But I think we're gonna see, like you said, like who they really are pretty soon. And we could see who they are in this game. I mean, a tough game at Wisconsin. Over under is 51.5. Or excuse me, the total is 51.5. It's a noon kick, Big Ten environment. How is Wisconsin going to pull off this upset?
Well, I think. I mean, that's a good question. I think Wisconsin's going to have to. It's really interesting how the Badgers are operating under Luke Fickell. It's a totally different switch from that, ground and pound, put your hand in the dirt style of football. And I mean, I think overall what you need to see is the bad version of Jalen Milroe that got him benched last year. We haven't seen that in a while for a good reason, because he has improved. But if Milroe starts acting up or acting uncharacteristically like what we've seen in the past, if you can turn him over on the road, keep your turnovers to a minimum, I think that'll be crucial for the Badgers to try to pull a win out here.
Well, the funny thing is, we talk about Milroe and the turnover thing, but also like your quarterback, Tyler Van Dyke, has to not be a turnover machine.
I thought they have Tyler Van Dyke. Oh my God.
Tyler Van Dyke and the Tyler Van Dyke Phil Longo combination has not been dynamic for the Badgers. I think Van Dyke this year has only thrown one touchdown pass, no interceptions yet, so that's pretty good. He's completing about 60% of his passes. So the accuracy hasn't been there. You haven't been able to really put the ball in the end zone. But yeah, I think like if you're Wisconsin, like control the game, play mistake-free football, run the ball. They're doing really good at converting on third down. So that's something that you're going to have to do, because you don't want Milroe and Alabama to get a lot of touches and get a lot of confidence, especially in your own stadium. So for me, those are the keys for victory for Wisconsin. But I think they have a really tough battle in front of them.
Yeah, I agree. This is very much not a good position to be in for Wisconsin. I think they're outmatched here. I think it's going to have to they're going to have to get really lucky, and Alabama's going to have to be really, really bad. Just being up front, shoot, what I'm talking about, like how they can win, it's coming up with a different version of Jalen Milroe that doesn't really exist anymore. So I think they're in trouble. I think they're really, really in trouble.
Yeah. All right. So again, Alabama's favored by 16. I like Alabama straight up. Covering is a different story. I think like this could get out of hand. But at the same time, this being in Wisconsin and really not knowing like what Alabama is as a team quite yet, for me, keeps me from really feeling confident either way about the line per se. But I really do think that Alabama is the better team, so I'm going to take them straight up.
Yeah, I think they cover 16 here. We've seen them have bit of tough games in the past, and they come out firing again. I think what we saw against USF was a bit of an anomaly, and I think they'll be geared up for this one. I think they cover 16. That's my call on it.
All right, cool. Well, there you have it. Again, this one's going to be Saturday noon Eastern. That is Alabama by 16, and the over/under is 51.5. Should be definitely interesting game, and it will be a talker if this game is close or Alabama does end up getting upset. All right, our next game is going to be Oregon who was also favored by 16 at Oregon State. Two road favorites back to back. We're going to talk about here. This one is Saturday, 3:30 Eastern in Corvallis. Uh, over the total is 50 and a half. Bobby, what's the biggest concern for Oregon right now?
Well, that's I mean, I think primarily it's the offensive line for one. Across the board, they're not doing a very good job of run blocking. Dylan Gabriel's getting absolutely hammered back there, and they're making a ton of mistakes that are hampering the drive. I think it's by far their biggest Achilles heel at the moment. They're really struggling. So I think that primarily is the issue with Oregon, and then just a general lack of focus, a lack of attention to detail that is really almost gotten them beaten two straight weeks. So I would say those two things, but it starts and ends with that O-line.
Yeah, the offensive line has to be better. They have to be able to run the ball. I think oddly, it just seems like they're able to. Dylan Gabriel's been putting up a lot of big numbers, and it hasn't really amounted to anything. Not that it hasn't been helpful. Like obviously, their offense, they had to put a lot of points on the board to beat or Boise State last week, but it just seems like there's some holes they need to fix in a few areas, and I think also discipline has been an issue with this Oregon team. Biggest concern though is probably the discipline, honestly, because I feel like talent normally, having good talent, you normally figure out ways to make plays and win. But if you're a team that wants to win a championship, especially in college football where the margins are small, and on any given Saturday, that it can be your day to lose, as we saw with Notre Dame last week. Like, I think this team being focused, this team being down, and this team being disciplined, limiting mistakes, limiting bad plays, blocking, like those things are what I'm concerned about if I'm an Oregon fan. And the road's not getting any easier. Like it's only getting tougher for Oregon. And what you don't like is that you've had so much trouble in these first two games. You want this to be one where they really play a complete, 4 quarters and get a win convincingly. So
yeah, no doubt. I agree with you though. This has to be a game they really turn this thing around, and Boise should have been the game they turn around, but that was not the case. And now you're gonna have to do it on the road in Corvallis, which will be an insane environment.
Yeah. One thing to look out for. They got buzzsaw last week by Ashton Jeanty, who put up cartoon numbers against them in week 2. This Oregon State running game is a two-headed monster. Both their running backs have over 200 yards. I think that'll be interesting to see. Like, was it just, potentially the best running back in the nation going off on you, or do you really have a bad run defense? Because, this is going to be an interesting test. If teams are able to run the ball on you, I think that's going to present a lot of issues for them if they don't get that cleaned up, especially on the road, because teams can just control clock, play time of possession, keep their crowd in the game. So you want to be able to sustain drives if you're their offense, but if you can't, you don't want to not have a good run defense. And so I think that's something to watch for. Also, I think one big glaring hole, I believe, is they're getting off the. I'm not getting off the field on third down. Excuse me. Converting third downs too. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think those are my like. All right, we're going to be looking out for this in this game, and Oregon has to clean both of those things up if they don't want to get upset by Oregon State.
Yep. No, I agree. Just you've got to tidy it up. It's especially with like just how short their drives have been. It's offensively just has not looked like the Ducks team that we really expected, to say the least.
Right. All right. So we both got Oregon State covering plus 16. To me, this is an interesting number. I think, especially based on the way Oregon State has looked. Sorry, y'all. Based on the way Oregon has looked. But, big road underdog. I like Oregon State to cover this. For me, I think it just comes down to Oregon's, going to be dialed in because of the way they played as of late. But I don't know about the run defense. I don't know if they're going to be able to really like get a big lead with the style of offense they play. I think their defense can do enough for where Oregon's going to win the game, but this might not be a team that blows many people out. And so to me, like, even though 16 in college football isn't a huge number, I think for this game, talking about it being a rivalry game, Oregon State's going to be feeling confident because they've seen how Oregon's played the last 2 weeks. They know this isn't going to be like some team that's coming in that's been beating people 52-0. Oregon State feels like they have a shot. They're familiar with the opponent. This is a road team. Like, I mean, the team is Oregon State is at home facing a rivalry opponent. I feel like Oregon State's going to cover. That's just like, for all those reasons, I feel like Oregon State can cover.
Yep, Max, I think you're spot on. I think the Beavers do cover 16 here. I'm not seeing it with Oregon right now, and until they prove me otherwise, I have no choice but to fade the Ducks.
Yeah. I think that's a smart bet. So yeah, interesting. So I was looking at what the line opened at. It opened at 14, but it's bumped up to 16 a little bit. So interesting to see. I like 16 better than 14, I think, for that. But yeah, it should be a really, really, really good game. And if you're a Ducks fan, you're just hoping to walk out with a win. All right. Speaking of so concerning the game in the same time slot is number 18, Notre Dame at Purdue. Notre Dame is favored by 10 points. The over-under is 45.5. Does Notre Dame have to win out to make the college football playoff?
I think, in a way, the bigger question is, if they went out, will they let them in? Will you throw in a one-loss Notre Dame team, who lost embarrassingly, a 28-point favorite at home to Northern Illinois? Mm-hmm. Frankly, I think that's as disqualifying a loss as it gets in a 12-team playoff. They don't have a conference championship to save them. Notre Dame has to play by a different set of circumstances because they're not in the conference. So look, hey, if y'all want to have an easy schedule, not deal with conference championships, that's fine. That's fine. But you got to take care of the damn Northern Illinois at home. For me, yeah, they would have to win out, and they'd have to have a lot happen. And frankly, yeah, probably winning out would do it for them because they're Notre Dame, and that those damn golden domes, for pretty much the entirety of this sport's history, have always gotten the benefit of the doubt. They absolutely should not, though, because I think what we saw last week was a disaster, a disgrace, really, coming off of that win against Texas A&M. By the end of this season, we're not going to be talking about an undefeated Notre Dame the rest of the way because they're not going to go undefeated. They're going to find a way to lose because that's just what they do.
Yeah, I think the formula for Notre Dame is you win these like Purdue, Miami of Ohio, Stanford, like those types of games. you got to win with style points, as they say. And then for the games where you expect the teams to be tougher or you expect the teams to be ranked, so Louisville, Georgia Tech, uh, not Florida State, USC, like those have to be games you win, right? So yeah, the answer is yes. You do have to win out to even have a chance. You have to beat the teams that are going to be better on your schedule, and you have to beat the teams convincingly that are not good on your schedule. That is the way that you have a chance if you're Notre Dame, because as we have said, there is no conference championship that's going to save you. And sucks for Notre Dame fans, but this is the world of college football. I mean, thank God it's not a 14 playoff because your season would be over like already. Like it would be
Right. Oh yeah. It would
would
be toast.
like you'd have no shot, like but this is now a team. I mean, this is now a season now where every single game really does count for you. And so man,
yeah, if you're Notre Dame, you got to lose respectable at least. Like,
yeah.
You can't drop these dumb ones. So
Yeah.
that's the breaks. Sorry, Irish.
Yeah. Well, I mean, great segue to the next point, because Notre Dame thought they had the bell of the ball when they got Riley Leonard from the transfer portal out of Duke after he decided to leave following the departure of Mike Elko. Riley Leonard, who at one point some may have felt like he was a first round QB in the draft type talent. He has not played well at all these first two games. Granted, coming off injury, but he's not looked good whatsoever. And again, the context here is they feel like they at least have an outside shot at contending for the playoff. So with that in mind, and those dreams not dead yet, what does Notre Dame do if Riley Leonard continues to play poorly?
I mean, you got to consider all options. I don't think even the most prized transfer portal targets are safe. So I think Notre Dame would absolutely and should absolutely look into other options if they have them. I can't say I know too much about the Notre Dame backup quarterback situation off the top of my head, but Riley Leonard is probably your guy, and that's kind of the problem when your strategy is just replenishing through the portal over and over again. Is you're not developing anything. You're locked in on the flavor of the ACC flavor of the year from the previous season. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but I think you got to look into pulling Leonard.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to look into it as well. I mean, yeah, I'm kind of quickly looking up their backups. They got Steve Angeli, 6'3", 211 pounds. He is a sophomore from New Jersey, 3-star prospect. Hasn't got a ton of burn. He in the college situation. Played a little bit, it looks like, last year, but I mean, yeah, you're not in a situation where you have a guy. It's not like a Arch Manning. You don't have Arch Manning waiting in the wings, or you don't have a I had another example at the top of my head, but I forgot it. But yeah, you don't have Dante Moore. You don't have like Oregon's got Dante Moore, back there behind Dylan Gabriel. That situation doesn't really exist. So they got to figure it out quick with Riley Leonard. He's got to play a lot better if Notre Dame even has a chance to not completely, have the season crumble up under them. And so This game is hopefully going to be a bounce back for him if you're a Fighting Irish fan and you expect them to bounce back. And I think what you want to see is that Notre Dame win and Riley Leonard have a great game. Um, Not an easy environment to play in, but it's a team you should beat. You know, it's a game where you should play well if you're going to be the starter of this team with the expectations that they have. So that's where I'm at. Um, all right, predictions. I'm taking Notre Dame. Um, the line is -10. Um, I'm a little inclined to feel like Notre Dame can cover um, the 10. For me, I believe in Marcus Freeman as a coach, and that what that means in this context is I think he's going to have his team very uh, much so focused and ready to come out and um, beat a team that they should beat handily. Um, Notre Dame was embarrassed. They're humiliated to lose a game like that in their home opener. I really like them to cover these 10 points, but I'm only going to just keep it simple and say that they will win straight up, money line, whatever you want to say, just because I feel better about that. But I do feel pretty good about them covering the spread. I'll just about it.
Yeah, Notre Dame finds ways to bounce back usually. But that being said, I'm not really trying to look at logic here. I'm just trying to be petty here, primarily. I think Purdue wins this one. I think they cover it. I think Ross-Ade Stadium is typically a pretty tough place to play. This is a in-state rivalry. Technically, I think people forget. And you look, Purdue, they always got a feisty one in them. We've seen them have upsets, out there in West Lafayette. And, I don't know. I was just not very inspired by Notre Dame last week. I could see this rolling over and, turning into something worse. And I don't know. I think the Boilermakers are a bad team to kind of bounce back against here. So give me Purdue.
One underrated aspect of this game, Purdue has had 2 weeks to prepare. They had a bye week in week 1. So
how do you have a week 1 bye week? What are we doing?
2 weeks to prepare for Notre Dame after beating Indiana State 49-0 in week 1. So Purdue, was probably looking at Notre Dame tape at halftime of their first game against Indiana State.
Just cackling.
So long to prepare for this game. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, this one's 3:30 kick. Again, Notre Dame was favored by 10. Over under is 45.5. You can watch that one on CBS and Paramount Plus. That will be an interesting game. Last one before we get to rapid fire picks. Last big game of the week we're going to talk about is Colorado at Colorado State. I think there are going to be better football games than this, and we'll talk about a couple of them in rapid fire. But I think I put this one on the list because I feel like this is sort of the fork in the road moment for one of the most talked about programs in the sport. Like, no matter how you feel about Dion, no matter how you feel about Shedeur, Colorado, like, they're the most talked about team in college football. And, they were last year too. But I think this is the fork in the road moment where it's like, all right, you win in Fort Collins, you beat your in-state rival, you have a good game, you bounce back, you do some things better than you did last week against Nebraska and the week before against North Dakota State. And I think people are like, all right, well, maybe the sky isn't falling in Boulder. I think if this game is a loss or a you get a walk-off field goal or something to win the game, or it's another overtime, double overtime situation. I think the conversations continue to go south for Deion personally, the program, where it's headed. If Deion's going to stay there, all those things are just going to continue or get worse. And I think you also run the risk of, especially if it's a loss, people just checking out entirely. Like, all the national media is just like, all right, we're done with this. Like, Colorado's not even going to be a bowl team, and they might not make a bowl if they win this game. But like, this is the game where it's like, all right, we're going to see how much Colorado is relevant, and it hangs on. It hangs in the balance of this game right here. But let's get into it. Colorado's favored by 7. This is a 7:30 Eastern kick, so it's going to be another late one, like last year's was. 58.5 is the total. Are you expecting another close game?
It better not be. If you're Colorado, you really, really better hope that this is not a close game. Do I expect it? Yeah, I kind of do. I have not been very high on the Buffs this season. I was clear about that last week with Nebraska. They somehow looked worse than I thought. And I feel like Colorado State is not a very good team. We saw Texas beat them we saw them just thump them. So I think it's close. I think it's closer than, like, less close. I think Colorado covers. I know we're not at picks yet, but I don't think this is going to be a runaway victory for Ralphie and the boys. I just think this is going to be kind of one of those tenuous, weird games like Colorado always has. It is in Fort Collins, which is a little bit interesting. I believe it's in Fort Collins.
Yeah,
they used to do those at Mile High. So it should be an interesting, road matchup. But I don't know. I'm just not big on this Colorado team. I think they do enough to not have the wheels fall off and lose this game, but I'm just not optimistic in them as a program at all right now.
Yeah. I think Colorado's got a better roster than Colorado State. I think Nebraska just like was really able to match in what Colorado had, and especially in the trenches, and just kind of dominate that way. And Nebraska has a really, really good quarterback in Raiola. I don't think it's the same case with CSU. They've got Braden Fowler Nikolowski, who is QBR of 26.3, thrown for 261 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. So I think this is for Colorado, you're facing an inferior quarterback. You have, obviously, Sanders is going to be able to do a lot of things. I think we're going to see another game where he just has some really good moments. I think a game like Nebraska, hopefully, it brings the team closer together. So I think this is going to be one where they're dialed in, ready to play. They understand the environment. Travis Hunter, this is the game where last year he got hurt. You're going to need him to stay healthy and available to make some plays. But, Colorado needs this win badly. Last 5 games, only 1 win for Colorado. So they really need to get this win. And just, not only just for the season, but just for their own confidence. I think it'll go a long way. What does Colorado need to fix in order to get the victory here?
Well, offensive line, I don't love that Shedeur Sanders is calling him out, but he's right. The O-line has not been very good. They need to be physical with Colorado State. Colorado State, that needs to be the number one thing. Give Shedeur time. Get him. Make sure he does not spend most of his game, on the ground. And I feel like he'll have time to get the ball to Travis Hunter. All of that. And frankly, overall, I think there just needs to be a sense of urgency with the Buffaloes. They can't have their dauber down. They can't. I just sometimes you see a lack of effort with them. That Travis Hunter goal line situation, even though he probably wouldn't have, stopped him from scoring. I don't know. There's just a lack of effort with Colorado, and this just overall vibe to them that I just don't think is right. I don't think they're there overall. So I think effort's a big part of it, but more importantly, the offensive line from a football perspective.
Yeah, you got to win the game in the trenches, protect your quarterback, sack theirs. Colorado State has their QB has only been sacked once this season, even in the Texas loss. I don't believe there was any sacks. There was no sacks in that game. They've done a good job at protecting their quarterback, keeping their quarterback upright. I think Colorado's obviously going to have to do that for sure, but they're going to also have to defensively. Colorado's going to have to put pressure on their quarterback and allow him to make mistakes. Don't beat yourself. Allow the team to beat themselves. And you know what? For me, Bobby, I think this would be a nice game for the running game has been a glaring issue for Colorado. To me, this would be a nice game for us to see Colorado be able to run the ball effectively with their running backs. Even if it's it's just Colorado State. I think they need you got to get some juice out of that unit, because right now it's not looking good, at all. And I think you're gonna want guys to, build their confidence and, for there to be other options at your running game outside of just, Shedeur running around. So, for me, they're too one-dimensional right now. They need to be able to run the ball, and they need to be able to keep their quarterback clean and get sacks and play good defense and keep this game from getting too close.
Yeah.
All right, we both got Colorado to win this game. I think we both kind of explained why already. But yeah, for me, I think it's just this team. If Deion has any, if there's any sign that Deion is a good coach, I think it'll show in this game. For me, you have the more talented team, the more talented roster. You just have to bring your team together, and you guys have just gone and play and clean up the things that you haven't been doing well. After this, your schedule is not going to get any easier. You're going to get in Big 12 play. You're going to have some tougher opponents. Just put one good win together. It's a rivalry. It means a lot to them. Go out and play hard and win the game. I think that's all they got to do. And I think they can do it. I think they're capable of it.
Yeah, I think they're capable of it, and I think they will. I don't think it's going to be without flaws, without issues, talking points, but I think they definitely have enough to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, rapid fire picks. Some of their good games, a few ranked matchups, to chat about. Arizona at K-State. K-State had a close victory, narrowly beating Tulsa last week. Arizona kind of bouncing back. Arizona showing up this season right where they left off last year. Last year they kind of were an underrated team in the Pac-12. Got some really good wins. Now they're ranked 20th by the AP poll, and they're going to go to Manhattan, face the Kansas State team. Who you got in this game,
Bobby? Give me Kansas State here. I think Avery Johnson and them, obviously survived a scare against Tulane last week, but they just look, even with that, they have a lot of offensive firepower. Arizona's been dodgy to start the season. They have not looked. I mean, you can look at McMillan's stats all you want. They just haven't been, overall impressive to me when you really look at it. So I think K-State at home gets it done on a Friday night.
Yeah, K-State favored by 7 in this game. The over-under 60.5. I think this could be a fun, high-scoring game. Both teams, both teams have pretty good offenses, pretty good running backs as well. I do like K-State. I don't know much about Arizona, honestly, but I think K-State normally is a team that's always been good at taking care of business at home. Arizona, not really sure how they travel. So I do like the Wildcats to get the dub. All right. Another sneaky good game. I think college football game day will be in Columbia for LSU at South Carolina. Brian Kelly trying to get his face back could have a nice SEC win to help get momentum going. LSU is the favorite, and they are favored by 7 as well. In South Carolina, I'm taking LSU.
Yeah, I will say, very impressed by South Carolina last week. Really strong performance after a pretty bad one to start the season against Old Dominion. But I'm not fully sold yet. So I'm going to go with LSU here, who they have a lot of issues. They have to figure out that damn running game. But overall, I think they can get it done at Williams-Brice Stadium.
Yeah. All right. Top 25 matchup between Boston College and Missouri is also on the slate. Boston College obviously looking pretty impressive with a convincing win over Florida State in Tallahassee to kick off their season, and then they beat totally blank. I don't even know how to pronounce that school. Duquesne. Duquesne. Yeah.
Did they play Duquesne? I can't remember.
6-0. So, rolling well, going into a tough SEC, school in Missouri. Missouri's favored by 16. The over-under is 53.5. Mizzou trying to prove that they're a contender for the playoff and a contender in the SEC. They got a 38-0 win over Buffalo and a 51-0 win over Murray State. Hard to pitch a shutout in football. Hard to do it 2 times in a row, I bet. I got Missouri, man. Like that type of dominance. I know the opponents aren't great, but they're showing me something. I think they have something to prove this year. I think Boston College is going to be a tough out, but I mean this is SEC cooking in Columbus, Missouri, or Columbia.
It's Columbia. You're good.
I'm like, okay. Columbia, South Carolina, Columbia, Missouri.
We have 2 Columbias in the SEC. It's really weird.
Yeah. Sorry. It's in Columbia. And yeah, I think Missouri gets the job done.
Yeah, no. I mean, I love Thomas Castellanos. I really, really like Boston College as a whole, and I would love it if they pull this one off. I just don't see it happening. Missouri's been so solid to start the season. I think they roll here.
All right, and last but not least, on rapid fire, we got a rivalry game cooking between Pitt and West Virginia. Sneaky good game to start our season early. West Virginia coming off of a win over UAlbany in a loss in week 1 to Penn State, which was pretty close for a good bit of the game. Pitt, speaking of close, narrowly beat Cincinnati and got a win in week 1 over Kent State. West Virginia is favored by 2 points. Over under is 63.5. This line opened at 5.5 in favor of West Virginia, has shrunk to 2. I think people are like 50-50 on this game. I think I'm gonna have to go with Pitt. No ACC bias, but helps that they're at home. Their quarterback has been really impressive. Eli Holstein, their freshman is playing lights out for them. I think West Virginia presents obviously a tougher challenge than what they faced, but getting out a win like that at Cincinnati is pretty gutsy. And I think they come back and hold their own. I think this is going to be a high scoring one, but I like Pitt.
I like Pitt too. Honestly, I think this is really just truly a toss up. But that being said, when you have a toss up like that, you got to favor the home team in a rivalry game like that. It's going to be crazy. I like Pitt by that much, just by a little bit.
All right. Last but not least, we're going to end the show with a little log of the week. Bobby was able to get on the board with a very astute lock of Tennessee -8. Tennessee, of course, dominated. NC State covered that pretty easily. Tough outing for the Wolfpack there. I had Colorado, Nebraska over 57.5. And you know what, Bobby? I'm pretty upset because I feel like they would have hit the over. Nebraska had 28 points in the first half, and then they decided to stop playing football. They were just like, okay, we're gonna play defense now, and our offense is gonna do nothing. I guess Matt Rule is trying to be polite to Deion Sanders. I don't know. It's kind of crazy to me because I think if the roles were reversed, Colorado would have ran up the score. But anyway, because of Matt Rule's sportsmanship, we did not get over 57.5. And also because Colorado sucks. And they couldn't score more than 10 points. So anyway, the scoreboard is 2-0 for the season. I'm gonna play it safe because I'm down 2 points. I'm gonna, and these games I think are very hard to pick. Even some like the straight up picks I don't feel great about this week. So I'm gonna take a game that we didn't talk about just to get 1 point on the board for next week, and I'm gonna go Missouri to win straight up against Boston College. It's the game that I feel the strongest about in terms of who's gonna win straight up. I could have taken something easier than this if I really wanted to, but just to keep it not ridiculous, I'm just gonna take Missouri because I feel the best about that.
Fair enough. I get it. I'm up 2-0, so I have the luxury of going out on a limb here. I'm gonna go with Oregon State plus 16. I think Oregon's gonna win the game. I just feel like Oregon State's going to do more than enough to keep this a pretty close ball game.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. I like it. All right. Well, next week we'll see if Bobby and I are right in our locks. It's been a good show. Should be another good week of college football. Come back here this time next week to see us break down week 4 and give you some more locks and recap. But I hope it will be a very interesting weekend of college football. But until then, it's been Max Millington with Bobby Howard. We'll see you next time right here on Multiplicity Media. Peace.